We are transitioning to our special meeting. I call to order the special meeting of the Glendale City Council for June 24th, 2025. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, council members Azadarian. Here. Brotman.
Here.
Garpetian.
Here.
Asakian.
Here.
Mayor Najarian.
Here. May we have your report?
Yes, the agenda for Tuesday, June 24, 2025, special public meeting of the City Council was posted on June 20th, 2025 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And what is the first item?
The first item is community development regarding public hearing for Stage 1 preliminary design review case number PDR 003252 2024 to demolish an existing surface parking to construct a new 4-story commercial building, medical office with one on-site loading space on an approximately 7,920 square foot site addressed as 201 West Glen Oaks Boulevard, located in the DSP/GAT Downtown Specific Plan Gateway District Zone, APN 5644-013-040. A motion to approve Stage 1 preliminary design review.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, and I will open the hearing. Go to Mr. Golanian.
Mayor Najarian, member of City Council, I'm just going to turn it over to Eileen Babakhani, our senior planner, for the presentation on this item. And I do believe the applicant's team also has a brief presentation in the audience.
Thank you, Mr. Golanian. Good afternoon, Mayor Najarian, members of City Council.
Check
And
your mic. Is it?
it is
Green
on.
light's on. Okay, speak up
Maybe-
just a little
sure.
bit more.
Good afternoon, Mayor Najarian, members of City Council, staff, and members of public. The case before us is a Stage 1 preliminary design review application with the case number PDR 0032522024 for the project address as 201 West Glen Oaks Boulevard. The Stage 1 preliminary design review application for this project consists of the demolition of an existing commercial surface parking lot, which is approximately 7,920 square feet in area, in order to construct a new 4-story medical office building. This building will have a total of 19,600 square feet in area. The project site is located mid-block on the north side of Arden Avenue and south of Glen Oaks Boulevard. At the project site, it's zoned Downtown Specific Plan, or DSP, Getaway District. This project is located basically at the edge of the DSP border. The area surrounding the project site is developed with high-density multifamily residential and commercial buildings, including retail, restaurant, general, and medical offices. Directly to the east side of the project site, we have the 13-story hotel building. To the south, across Arden Avenue, there are parking structures and 1-story vacant restaurant. To the west, there is again parking lot and 1-story restaurant. And to the north of this project site, we have open space, public right-of-way of Glen Oaks Boulevard, and basically the deck area over the Verdugo Wash.
Bless you.
The proposed building is rectangular in design and occupies the majority of the site. The primary entrance to the building, as well as vehicular access to the one on-grade loading space, will be from Arden Avenue. The project also includes secondary entrances on the east, west, and north side, which is the rear of the building, facing open space along Glen Oaks Boulevard. The project complies with the street setback requirement of the DSP, mixed-use commercial streets project in the DSP, and that are located along mixed-use commercial streets are required to have a minimum of 18-foot street setback from the curb face. The project provides a minimum of 24 feet and 10 inches street setback from the curb face along Arden Avenue. It also provides approximately 47-foot setback from the curb face along Glen Oaks Boulevard. The project will have also a minimum interior or side setback of 2 feet on the east and west side. This project is required to provide 78 parking spaces according to the zoning code requirement, and also is required to provide 2 bicycle parking spaces. Pursuant to the provision of AB 2097, the project qualifies for not providing any parking spaces, therefore doesn't provide any parking spaces. The project is providing only 1 loading space, as I mentioned, and also 2 bicycle parking space on the ground level. Here on this slide, we have the floor plan of the ground level of the project, which includes the proposed loading space, medical offices and their associated spaces, and also associated rooms such as reception areas, corridors. The project's second and third floor are similar and contain medical offices and associated spaces. The fourth floor, however, contains medical offices and also covered deck and balconies for the use of the future tenants and customers. The proposed FAR, or floor area ratio, for this project is 2.47, and the building height is 70 feet. An FAR of 7.25 and building height of 275 feet are the maximums for the project by right in the DSP Getaway District. On this slide, you can see the rendering showing front, rear, and west side of the proposed building. And the project Stage 1 design indicates that it is consistent with the design standards, policies, and intent of the DSP and represent a contemporary modern architectural concept. This project uses high-quality building materials, colors, texture, uses offset massing, projections, recessed entries, and canopies to articulate the facades. The design addresses the public sidewalk and with the street-level facade, which is detailed with human-scaled and high-quality materials, as well as a significant amount of glazing that are divided into smaller units. A detailed review of the building materials, fenestration details, any gates, lighting plans, signage, paving, also the location of utilities, street improvements requirements, and also landscaping will be reviewed and finalized during the stage 2 of the design review. Also, environmental review is not required for stage 1 design review, and it will be prepared and presented to City Council during the stage 2 design review. To comply with the DSP modulation of height standard, the project has incorporated a corner feature on the building corner at the southwest corner of it. This project provides a 10-foot height differentiation at that corner feature to comply with the DSP standards. Many DSP standards, including open space requirements, do not apply to this project because the project is smaller than other DSP projects and also does not have a frontage of greater than 50 feet. Project's compliance with each applicable DSP standard is explained and outlined in the staff report. The project also appropriately incorporated the required facade modulation and height modulation, and it provides a defined building base, middle, and top, each featuring different colors, different material, and different textures. Moving forward, on this slide, we have the 3D renderings of the lighting plan for this project and also some of the proposed material specification for this project. In conclusion of my presentation, as I mentioned, this project is largely consistent with the design standard policies and intent of the DSP, so staff recommends the City Council approve the Stage 1 preliminary design review. For this project, staff received one public comment in the form of an email to support the project. I'm not sure if you received the copy of the comment. And with that, I conclude my presentation. I'm all ready for any question.
Mr. Kasakian.
Yes, thank you. So in reading the report and your presentation, am I correct in understanding that this project, were it not for the state laws and that are imposed on it, would be underparked?
Yes, there's no proposed parking spaces for this project, Councilmember Kasakian.
And then I noticed that it is on a parcel adjacent to the Hilton Hotel. There's also a restaurant and there's a much larger lot there. Who does the other parcel belong to? Is it the same owners?
I don't believe it's the same ownership, and I don't believe that this time there is a proposed project on the adjacent parcel.
There's two it's two
They are
separate
just,
parcels.
of
this one and
course,
that one.
they are separate.
Okay, I have a question. I'm really shocked that there's no parking in this building, where there otherwise would be 78 parking required. Can you remind us about 2970? Is that the Friedman bill, that whatever? Because you're within so much proximity to a major transit line. Is that the exclusion that they fall under?
Mayor Najarian, that is correct. AB 2097 does essentially allow projects within an urban environment that are within close proximity to high-frequency transit to be able to submit. It's not quite an application, but we do review and then essentially issue a letter permitting that. We've seen it used in a number of projects to reduce parking. I think this might be the first one we've seen where it's eliminated the parking, though.
So let me just go with that. If the Conrad site to the south were to be developed, they could also have no parking?
Most likely, obviously, be reviewed based on the project and what kind of what they submitted. Not any development is allowed. There are certain assembly uses and things like that that cannot use AB 2097. But by and large, residential, commercial, mixed use can,
I mean, medical use is one of the highest uses
and they
of
would
parking.
be eligible for it.
And how about the crab broiler or whatever that was next to this property? If they
Again,
were
it
to
would-
redevelop, they could also get away with parking?
It would depend on the development, but yes.
This is really troublesome to me. But
I mean, I
Let
do
me-
have a-
let me
I-
go
I
ahead.
do have a technical question.
Yes,
Because I
Councilmember
know it's
Esateri.
perhaps not part of the, by the way, I love the building. I love all of it, and I'm not even going to comment on it. I'll just leave it at that. But the fact that it is a medical building, what if somebody with a disability comes to see their doctor? Where are they parking? Are there other accommodations around that area? So are we not allowed to take that into consideration?
No, if they're providing parking, then a percentage must be ADA. If they're not providing parking, then the expectation, much like in some other urban environments, is that they would take transit, use public parking, on-street parking, things of that nature.
Okay, so are there around this property?
There is on-street parking that is not too far away, and then there's transit, which is really the basis for AB 2097, is the accessibility to transit.
Would anyone else have any questions? Sharpetcha?
This is more for staff. You mentioned that the setback was 2 feet, Ms. Babakhani?
Councilmember Karapetian, from the both side, east and west, minimum provided setback is 2 feet.
Right, because I had my packet and I was joking with the planning director and I brought my magnifying glass and I couldn't even read the packet that we had with this class to see what the setbacks were. So for future the projects, please provide an 11 by 17 at least so we can understand what the setbacks are, what the project is in general. So on the west side, both sides have glass windows, right? Because in the packet there was no elevation or rendering of the east elevation.
East elevation, yes,
Right.
it is. There is also, going back to the question, clarification on the setback, page IA 1.0, if you look at the red note, it shows the 2-foot interior setback on this site plan, but I agree, this is tiny.
I understand, but
On the elevation question, yes, the east side elevation has been provided on the drawings, page SI-A2.01. We have east and west elevation. We do not have 3D rendering, I believe, on that facade, but we do have the proposed elevation drawing.
I don't have that plan, but it's, nevertheless, it's a flat rendering, okay.
I can
No,
also,
no, that's fine, that's fine.
here on this slide also, I have it up.
Right, so side elevation, east side. So all the windows that we have, are they operable windows or they are fixed windows?
I don't have that information on the drawings. Maybe that can be the question can be directed to the designer.
All right, because my understanding is if they're operable, they have to have a little bit more setback than 2 feet. If I'm not mistaken, I want to have that clarified, so when they come back for second review, then we won't have that issue.
Councilmember Garpetian, if I may, they would have, there are certain requirements and restrictions in terms of fire protection. So it could have to require a change in the percentage of glazing or it could be done via water curtain sprinkler system if they did choose to do that. That is something that would have to be addressed between now and stage 2, and then it could ultimately change the design.
Because, again, with the flat rendering, I can't tell how far away the glass is from the property line. So if that's the case and they're operable for the applicant's information, they have to have more setback on those sides. And also, what happens if the next door neighbor develops up to the property line or 2 feet away from it and has this tall building next to you? They're gonna lose all the natural light. I mean, it's just for you to understand that next door neighbor is, I don't think they bought it to sit on it for a long time. I'm sure they're gonna propose some sort of a project, if I'm not mistaken. But as far as I like the design too. This is a typical office building, nicely designed. I like the design. And also one question about the front facade. I know that downtown had, again for the applicant's information, we had I don't know if it applies to commercial buildings or it's only for residentials. After a certain height, like 35 or 40 feet, you have to have a 15-foot setback. So is that part of does that apply to this zone? Because downtown has different zoning, I
Yes.
understand that.
Yes, Councilmember Karpetian. Facade modulation DSP standard is asking for either provide a corner feature or 15-foot setback.
Okay,
So they
so
chose
the
to,
corner feature, okay, that answers-
design a corner feature for this
That
project.
answered my question. And as far as parking, I don't know. This state law, I understand they try to kind of help people design buildings and build projects, but zero parking for any facility, let alone the medical facility. I don't know how you're going to run a big facility like this, 20,000 square feet, almost medical place, medical facility, medical building with zero parking. I think part of the second phase, maybe you have a program to kind of explain how this project will work, because I'm having a hard time with the state law. Sometimes, instead of providing 2 parking, you provide 1. We say, okay, half the people may not drive and use public transit. But here especially, there are no public parking structures, not that I know of, around this facility. And street parking is not that great because of the one side is Central and the other side is Hilton on the alley side. So I'm kind of concerned not only about this project, nothing about this project, but in general, lack of parking, or at least half the parking that you need to provide. In general, I don't think people will drive if they are disabled. How are you gonna? I mean, that was a great question as to how would you. Anyways, I'm concerned about the parking situation. I don't think not every customer is going to use or patient is going to use public transportation to go to any facility. So, with that, I'm okay with the design. I like the design. I'm okay to move it forward, but as far as the parking, we need to have some some sort of answers or plan as to how are you going to run a business of 20,000 square foot medical building with zero parking.
I'd like to ask,
Kasaki.
I'd like to add to that question because it's the same question I have. So from the applicants, architect, anyone who's here, I'd like to ask a question if it's allowable.
Sure.
So I'm assuming there's going to be medical staff in some medical office buildings, so there'll be doctors. Where are those individuals supposed to park? Or where are they going to park? Are they going to take public transit?
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council members. So right now, as we have it right now, we've developed a project that apparently utilizes AB 2097, the zero parking minimum requirement. Right now, the plan is from Sacramento that people are going to be coming in with, using the public transit that's available in that area. So right now, our plan is, to use that public transit and to essentially market that as a place that essentially has, in the middle of downtown, has thousands of units, people living in that area will be able to come and use this facility or work at this facility. That's our plan as it is right now. We understand that there is, concerns about the parking at this moment, but we have a very constrained site, and in order for this project to work, we cannot have any parking on there. We cannot go underground. We cannot have a first level. There's just no room for it. We do have a loading area that is included in the plans. So vehicles will be able to come and load senior citizens or disabled or handicapped people in order to get into the building. There is going to be have that area in there. But in terms of how people are going to get into it, the idea from Sacramento is that we are going to use public transit. So that is how we designed the project.
Okay, thank you. And basically, I don't want to put words in the speaker's mouth. Thank you, Mr. Manasarian, but the answer is simply there isn't parking for staff or any of the medical professionals that'll be working there.
Yes, there's.
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on this. I mean, I like the idea of letting the market dictate what the parking requirement is, but I am surprised that from a marketability point of view, or from your lenders, that there isn't concern about this lack of parking. Well, I'm wondering, are you thinking maybe of having a contract with an adjacent property that has parking, and that you would maybe validate people parking over there or something along those lines?
We don't have any plans. Right now is the phase 1 design review. We don't have any plans to talk, to any adjacent owners at the moment. Depending on how far we go in the second phase and the approval today of the design review, there are options that we can explore, but for right now, there are no plans of that nature.
I mean, I would just think from your ability to market this to your tenants, you're going to have a solution.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. And I don't think you say Sacramento expects people to come by transit. I think the idea was the market will dictate what the parking demand is rather than cities kind of arbitrarily dictating that. So it could be zero or it could be some other number. It would really depend on, the market. And it surprises me that from that point of view, the owner developer would see that this is a viable project for a medical facility with no parking. I like that there's less, but I'm with everybody else. It just doesn't seem feasible.
One thing I do want to say is that it is next to the BRT, which apparently that's going to be a big one in terms of how many how many ridership and things of that nature. But as of right now, yeah, we don't have a parking plan for the building.
I would just strongly encourage you to see if there's a facility nearby where you can enter into some kind of a contract. Otherwise, you're going to have a big problem.
We will take that into consideration. Thank you.
But I'm good with the design and everything else about it.
Councilmember Essetra.
So, no, I mean, there's only specific things that are in front of us right now that this is a hearing, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so,
Let me ask a question. Did staff you can have a seat, Mr. Messer. In the presentation of this with staff, did you suggest to them that maybe they should have some parking, that maybe council, looking out for the best interests of the city and the downtown area, would have some issues despite 2970, AB 2970, relieving any parking requirement? I mean, did you say that that might not fly very well?
It's obviously a question that we would ask, what are the considerations for parking, but unfortunately, the AB 2097 rule overrides us on that. If that is an option, it's an applicable option, we can obviously always ask that question. And even in the case here, it's in many ways not a factor of the design review. We are part of this to discuss massing and scale, but even going forward, because they can use that exemption, it doesn't really give us a lot of teeth in terms of that. We can always pose the question, we usually do. We can always offer a recommendation, we usually will. But it's nothing more than that, I guess you could say.
I mean, someone could go as far as say that this is an irresponsible design in the city of Glendale, and that Mr. Brotman is correct, that there was an implied understanding that taking away minimum parkings would leave a discretion upon the developer to provide a basic modicum of parking. But we're not here about parking. I don't like the massing and the scale. It really is out to the border of the property. If someone builds next to it, it's going to be just jammed up in there. So I'm not happy with the massing and the scale. Mr. Garpetian.
I have a suggestion. I don't know. The height limit is 275 feet, right, in this area?
That is correct.
Okay, and they're only going up 70
feet.
70 feet. So as far as the parking goes, I know going underground is a big challenge, especially this lot. I don't know how wide it is, but I think it's really not wide enough for you to go underground and make a turn, basically. Your turn radius may not work, but there are parking systems that are automatic, and they can be placed on ground level, on second level, or underground. And you come in, you park your car, it takes it away, it's automatic parking. You don't even touch it. And it can accommodate a lot more parking than conventional parking spaces that you need to have driveways and stuff. But we don't have that in our code that they can use such a thing.
Councilmember Garpetian, what I would say in terms of this conversation and the comments from council, I think we've heard a few recommending maybe come back with some considerations or at least a justification regarding the parking plan. To the point you're making, that is a very good example that can be used, can be an option if they'd like to. West Hollywood City Hall actually uses one of those systems. That could be one that could be recommended to them to take a look at and see if that's something that would be applicable or could fit into this building. Again, it is a narrow lot. It's only 50 feet wide, so it does pose a challenge. So I don't know if that system would necessarily work, but it is something that you could encourage the applicant to take a look at.
I'm encouraging them because I think that your doctors will really appreciate it too, because coming every morning to work and there's no parking, how are you going to park around the neighborhood? And that area is not very parking friendly. I think that's an option that I highly encourage for you to take a look at. It's your project, but again, the massing as far as being 2 feet away and all that glass, if they build next to you tomorrow, you have to consider that as well as to how is it going to work. So maybe you can have some modulations or setbacks on that side as well. But in general, I think parking is a huge concern for everyone, especially across the street. They're all residential neighborhoods on Central Side.
Okay, if there's, is there any public comment?
I have 3 cards, speaker cards, including Chris Manasarian, who spoke.
Okay, well, he's entitled to address us.
Yes.
So just call them up, and if they'd like to speak, they can.
Okay. So the first speaker, how much time would you like to give the?
Are all the speakers affiliated with the applicant? So let's give them 8 minutes combined.
Combined, okay. And I think there's also a presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
One
honorable
second, I'm
council
sorry,
members.
let me,
Sorry.
so the first speaker is Chris Manasarian, and here is your,
Okay, so if you want to fold those cards in to the applicant's
sure.
presentation, you can just call their names out, and we'll give Mr. Manasarian and his team 8 minutes.
yes, so the second speaker is Sanjay Isayu, my apologies if I mispronounced it, and Marina Vanyan.
Make one comment?
Yes, before you start.
I
You have
would
a
just,
plea from
I
a
would just,
council
yes,
member.
I would just ask that you don't repeat things that were already
Oh, yeah,
said.
no worries.
It's going to be a long night tonight.
Yeah, no, I think we already pretty much said what, we wanted to say. I'm just going to run through very quickly, and then I'll open it up to questions from me or the designer or Sergey. The address is 201 West Glen Oaks Boulevard. It fronts both Arden and Glen Oaks. Here's the project site, the goals and surrounding uses. The project is a proposed state-of-the-art 4-story medical building. It reaches up to 70 feet in height and with 19,600 square feet. It's a new medical office that is a good opportunity to meet the community's healthcare needs, especially with the aging community that we have in this city. It's located near both Glendale Adventist Hospital, which is about 2 miles away, and then Glendale Memorial Hospital, which is about half a mile away. So it'll help take off some of the pressure from those hospitals by providing these medical office uses. The project is also well served by transit. There's multiple bus lines that are in the area, actually, and then there's a bus rapid transit system that's going to be about 2,000 feet away, I believe, at Pacific and Glen Oaks. It's located at the edge of downtown Glendale to the north, basically the gateway, as they call it. There's multiple high-density residential dwelling unit projects in that area. There's Altana, which has 507 units. There's Madera that has 235. And then there's the new 820 North Central Avenue, which is just to the south of this. That's going to bring another 105 residential dwelling units. The project is just, we also are hopeful that the project will activate that little park area that's right behind it. I personally don't see a lot of people using that park a lot. I think having an area, having a building so close to it is going to encourage people to, take their lunch there or sit on the bench or enjoy that area. We just provided a few floor plans that we don't think really are necessary to go through, and then some elevations. I can hand it off to Marina right now if you have any questions to ask her. But in general, we've pretty much covered everything that we wanted to cover. Thank you.
So you can speak. I'm not sure if there's questions. If there's questions, colleagues, you can
I'm
ask
just
them.
here. Hi, I'm Marina Vanyan on the behalf of the design team. I'm here to answer any questions you might have at this time. As far as the windows that you mentioned on the east elevation, that's so close to the adjacent property, they are all fixed windows, curtain system. Yes, it's all a curtain system.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, yes. this is-
Yeah, usually when the project comes to council or design review, we usually have a street level, eye level, a rendering that shows the relation of this, the design of this building in relation to the neighboring properties, immediate neighboring properties. I think that's important for this project to have when you go to design review.
Will do.
Because when it comes back, I would like to see it. So if there is a building next door to you, 2 feet away from this one, you want to know how is it going to impact, because the way it's shown on the rendering, especially 3D rendering from the corner that shows that corner piece, it looks like that you're maybe 10, 15 feet away from the hotel, but you're almost up against their hotel deck. It's the pool deck, right, on
It's a
that
pool
side?
deck above,
Right,
yes.
so that is very important to have, to show the facade of this building in relation to the neighboring properties. And I didn't see it here. I don't know if I was there, I missed it, but I know that from the look of your face, maybe probably was my packet, but I don't.
Councilmember Garpetian, I just want to make a magnifying joke magnifying glass joke, but I'll save it for a different day. What we could do, actually, and I think would be helpful to address your concern, I believe, Mayor, you've also said the same thing, is we could ask them to do the rendering with the context of the development potential next to it as well in there, so that you would see what that, the proximity and how that impacts. I mean, I think for the most part, by and large, councils agree they like that facade, but how does it get impacted if something does get built next to it? We can't ask for that rendering to be included as well.
Sure, because I thought that was our process, because other projects provided that, so.
Typically, street level, yes. We don't always ask for it in the context of potential development that could occur, but we can ask for that as well, too, though, to show the impact that I believe you were asking about.
Leave that up to your expertise, because I don't know what the process will be in the future if they build or don't build. I don't want to put them in that position, because they don't know what the neighbor is going to build. But as far as today, what's there, that's something that we need to know.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you. Okay, if there's no other discussion, I will close the public hearing. See if there's a motion.
I make the motion to move to stage 2. Is it stage 2 or design review first?
This is stage 1 design review. They will also then go to our design review board and then return to council at a later
For
date.
advisory.
Right,
Yeah,
so with
for
all the comments that you received and recommendations.
That's a motion. Is
I'll
there a
second it.
second? Mr. Brotman wants to join us. Let's take roll call.
Councilmember Sidonian,
Yes.
Brotman, Garpetian,
Yes.
Kasakian,
No.
and Mayor Najarian.
No. This will carry over until next meeting unless
he's in the back,
he won't- maybe he doesn't want.
Want to reconsider in light of the presence of Mr. Brotman, returning currently to the dais.
Mr. Brotman, sorry, but we're in the middle of roll call and we're tied 2-2.
Oh, I'm a yes.
All right,
I would recommend that you formally retake.
you take the vote?
Okay.
Okay, let's start from the top.
Councilmember Sidonian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Kasakian,
No.
and Mayor Najarian.
No. All right, let's move to item 2.
Item 2 is community development regarding consideration of potential regulations pertaining to animated signs. A motion initiating amendments to Title 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, GMC, regarding animated signs.
Mr. Galanian.
Yeah, Mayor Najarian, members of the City Council, this report will be presented to you in response to a council request. With that, I'll turn it over to Bradley Calvert, our Community Development Director, for the presentation.
Mayor and council members, I will try to keep this presentation as short as possible. I believe we only have a handful of slides here, but we are returning with the consideration of changing the regulations pertaining to those animated signs. This is about commercial signs conveying messages for activities on the property. This is not about advertisements for things off of property. We've had discussions during the budget sessions about that. That's going to be a later item that comes. This is about signs that essentially make announcements for activities on that property, and we'll go through a couple examples as to how. There we go. Previously, council has requested that we consider allowing, or maybe even temporarily allowing, animated signs in the context of a business advertising, maybe a sale, maybe it's a church advertising an activity that's occurring. This is really about those message delivery to pedestrians and passerbys on property, and a message about the activity again on that property. Currently, our regulations prohibit those in general. We do have some antiquated rules in there as well that apply to things like open signs that may flash on and off, things of that nature. But really, those kind of signs have been prohibited through anything that provides a sequence of progressive changes by part or action or motion, flashing or color changing for any sign at all. That's pretty much prohibited throughout the city. That includes digital, electronic, LED, whether that's static, flashing, or colorful, that has been prohibited for quite some time. There have been some there have been some exceptions, public service, such as time and temperature, the existence of barber poles, gas station price signs as well. have been allowed. We also do have an exception for creative signs. That's primarily within our DSP. ArtSoc is a good example. There is a creative sign proposal or regulation proposal for that when that project moves forward. And then our ASOZ overlay zone, which applies to the Galleria and the town center. That is a much different kind of situation than here. That also has a lot to do with advertising. Again, we are talking about just informational displays on signage in terms of our discussion here today. Now, when this came up with council, we took that back as staff. We were looking at what would be a mechanism to move this forward. We recognize that this would require some level of environmental review because of the potential impacts, visual illumination, things of that nature, and that takes time. We know that there are been inquiries and interest and requests to consider these signs to be placed, and what we have found in discussion with the city attorney's office as well and through our review in terms of planning is that to consider a pilot program for this for the time being. We would consider a 10-year program. This would allow time for those installations to potentially be put in place, and I'll discuss location in a moment, and allow for us to evaluate that and the impact of that while we do an environmental review, but also for those businesses or locations that may be putting one in place, that they get the full, essentially, return on investment of that installation during that period of time. That would allow us to be able to, or would allow for these to be installed in specific zones and areas, and then allow us as staff to study that and the broader implications of it. And see what other sort of regulations may need to be put in place. Some of those regulations that we would consider right now, obviously no off-site advertising. This is about that location. That's about the business advertising their sale. That is about the local bake sale being promoted or gathering being promoted for a church or any other property that would be within a commercial zone. So those would be all incidental to the primary use on-site, no advertising. We're recommending as part of that pilot program that this be limited from on Central Avenue from essentially the 134 down to Los Feliz and on Brand Boulevard from Colorado down to Los Feliz as well. We believe this is the most appropriate location for this because this is a high traffic commercial area. It makes sense for these kind of signs to be considered for that area. And as part of that environmental review, we'll look at areas potentially beyond that if council would like us to do so. Otherwise, we can continue to consider it just being isolated to these two areas. It would only be allowed as a ground sign or a wall sign. So essentially following those kind of existing regulations, we would be using height, quantity, size, and location would be based on the existing rules that we have for signs now. That typically is a relationship to the size of the sign and then the size of the facade so that we don't have giant signs that are overwhelming the size of a building, for example. The standards that we would like to study and some that may go into place now if council would like to see us do so in terms of these amendments for a pilot program, we could require these to be dimmable and adjustable so that none of us in the planning department or even building and safety or anybody here is really an illumination expert. And there are cities that I've seen, I've worked for, that what they do is they typically have, there's a maximum illumination level, but you can require that it be dimmable or adjustable. So once it's been installed and once it's been in place, if we see that the impacts are too great, we can basically tell them to turn it down. That's something we've actually been considering in terms of all illumination, regardless of signs or maybe even potential buildings in the future as we study some of our land use code changes. We can put operating hours on this. 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. could be consideration, that we don't want these to be kind of broadcasting out light any later than that. There can be no flashing graphics or words. It has to be done within 8-second intervals. So that's kind of a static message there for 8 seconds, and then it can rotate into another static message. It would have to be oriented away from residential uses. So if we have a commercial property that's on Central and there's a residential use on the backside, it needs to be on that primary street facing another commercial property and not facing an adjacent residential use, so it's not a nuisance. That goes to the point of being oriented towards the arterial streets. And then it must comply also with the public works requirements for visibility in the right-of-way, so that would be part of that review process as well. So the height of it would not essentially obstruct the view of any drivers. It wouldn't cause any visual obstructions at intersections. Very similar rules and regulations we have when it comes to vegetation and things of that nature. So what we're proposing is that we would go and make these changes to our sign code amendment. We would draft those. They would have to go to the Planning Commission, then return to City Council for the pilot program. And then we would begin that environmental review process to consider that as a long-term program or any potential changes that may come or could be kind of taken based on those temporary or pilot program amendments that we would do. So I stated, very short presentation. This is us returning with a strategy based on the direction council had given us before. Happy to answer any questions, and our principal planner, Vista Azadi, is also here as more of a technical expert in these land use codes.
Okay. And just to be clear, that these, your intention, as you stated, is that these would not be for commercial purposes?
Correct.
Only services pertaining to the property that, upon which they're placed?
Correct. We've had those discussions about the advertising or for off-site uses. That is going to be a separate conversation. This is just for the incidental uses on the property.
Mr. Kasakian.
Well, I'm glad this is back. I'm hoping that there won't be another extended period of waiting for us to start implementing what I believe and what many can see if they walk around the downtown, around the city, quite honestly, a very reasonable, modern sign ordinance. I've mentioned this before, that not only do we have commercial uses utilizing digital signs on in the downtown currently, and they had to apply for special dispensation from the council, but all of our schools, the Glendale Community College, including the city itself with its sign outside of the Civic Auditorium, and I hope that if this does pass and we're able to, at some point, we modernize that sign as well, because it's pretty dated. Everyone will be able to be brought into compliance. In the report, it did mention that council should give direction as to whether we include those open and closed signs into this. I would like to include that, so people and shop owners, small business owners that currently have those signs, which are not in compliance, can be in compliance, so they're not operating outside of the confines of what we want to adopt as council. And I would like to know specifically, timeline-wise, from staff, when will we see implementation of it pending council vote today?
So what's the timeline, Mr. Calvert? You're going to come back with some details on these?
Yes, we would have to draft the code language. Do note that there have been changes to noticing requirements per the state, so that adds 20 days to each of the sessions we go to, whether that's planning commission or here. We are going to get together as a staff. As council members know, we have a number of land use code regulations that we are modifying right in our zoning code, and we're going to strategize on how we're going to move all these forward quickly.
So I understand that I may have put staff on the spot right now, although I can't understand why, but next week I'll ask the same question again as to the specific timeline that staff can provide as to when this is coming back.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Mr. Garbettian.
Yeah. Question for Mr. Calvert.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay.
Oh, go ahead.
So every property on that corridor can have a sign, a digital sign, basically. I mean, every commercial property. So the size of these signs, how are we going to determine the size of it? Because right now, all these shopping centers, they have like 10 units. Each unit, whatever the frontage they have, if they have 20 feet frontage, a store has 20 foot of frontage, their sign can be 20 square feet. But for a big complex, a shopping center is going to have a larger sign than a small medical building, or how do we determine the size of these signs?
The size of the sign would be in relationship to the overall size of the facade. That's typically how we measure those. I don't know the number offhand off the top of my head. If you'd like to know it, I believe maybe Vista might know it. If not, if it's a multi-tenant building, that would be the rotating element of the message, right? If there's 5 tenants, they wouldn't have 5 ground signs.
No, I understand that. No, basically the formula to as to how big or small the sign can be is based on their facade that they have, frontage that they have on the street. Okay, it's the same concept basically for any other store right now.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Asaturian.
I'm good.
Councilmember Brotman.
No, I think it's very limited and controlled, and I appreciate that, so I have no problem with it.
I will look forward to the details of this item. but for now, we're asking you to go forward. That's the issue before us. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
We do have a caller.
Oh, we do have a caller, okay. Let's hear the caller.
Our caller is Fernando Roldan. You're on air, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. For this consideration of these signs, and again, I'm just advising the mayor and the council to do this. 2 things. Make the signs a little brighter and better to look at, especially for people who are visually impaired. Also, you may want to provide some braille for some folks that are blind and all. I mean, again, as usual, that's one way of doing it. And also for those who are deaf or hard of hearing, maybe some special lighting or so that way people can see the light, the lights. Again, for those who are deaf or hard of hearing, again, as usual, that's my 2 cents, because some cities like Santa Monica already have those kind of special animated signs. Once again, that's my 2 cents. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members of the council.
Thank you, Mr. Casar.
So one thing I do want to add, if Councilmember Al-Satrian will accept this as a friendly amendment in terms of direction, I do want to insist that when these signs are installed, that we also require that if the city has a need for having certain public service announcements or information to be posted, that they will make it available for city use within a certain period. There could be limitations on it, but I'm thinking about, when elections are coming up, when there's a public health concern, or when there's an emergency. These are all things that we should be able to work with the local businesses to push out information to the public.
If I may, we may need some time to look into that with the city attorney's office to make sure that that's something that we're eligible to do. But if that's the case, then that's something that we can bring back as part of the regulations if it would be allowed, essentially.
I know with billboards, digital billboards, a lot of cities do have agreements with those who post them. I know that this would be on private property, but I think it would be something that maybe it could be either a voluntary agreement. I know some of the people that are waiting for this would be more than willing to cooperate. Thank you.
So in terms of that amendment, you're thinking of get out and vote, not get out and vote for majority.
No election. Of course. Yes, certainly. I would
General
not.
public service.
Yes, I thought that would be clear, but yes, let me be on the record and state that it would not be advocating for a position
my name up
or a
in lights,
candidate.
sir.
And I would not want it to be if a measure is put forth by the city to say, don't forget to vote on measure. It would be absolutely only announcing the date of the election, nothing else.
We'll throw that to the legal team to figure out.
Whatever it may be. It could also be for emergencies, fires,
You accept
evacuations,
that
et cetera.
amendment?
Why not?
Okay. So roll call, please.
Council members Asadarian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Karpetian,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item is item 3.
Item 3 is Community Services and Parks regarding purchase and sale agreement to acquire fee title to real property and improvements located at 1000 South Central Avenue, Glendale, California. A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Aria Investments LLC for the purchase of real property and improvements located at 1000 South Central Avenue, Glendale, California, in the amount of $24 million plus $700,000, which includes for estimated closing costs and broker commission. B, resolution of appropriation to appropriate $8,300,000 from the Development Impact Fee Fund balance, $2,321,967 from Measure A grant revenue, and transfer $4,772,817 from the Wilson Middle School multipurpose field and $3,305,216 from Cerritos Elementary School multipurpose field projects to land acquisition project for purchase of 1000 South Central Avenue.
Mr. Golanian.
Yes, Mayor Najarian, members of City Council, it's an exciting time. We are, as staff, very excited to bring forward this report to you. As you know, the purchase of real estate property in South Glendale has been a major priority for council for the purpose of developing a park and recreational space in South Glendale, or I should say increasing that space in South Glendale. and we're happy that we have come to the stage. Staff has finalized the negotiation for the purchase of this property, and I will invite Onik Bulanikian, Director of Community Service and Parks, who's also very excited, but he's not showing it, to provide more detail for your consideration. And Mark Berry is also available to respond to your questions.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Najarian, members of the council. As Mr. Golanian mentioned, yes, I'm very excited. Earlier this year, you had directed staff to make an offer to acquire the property known as what we call the Joanne Fabrics on the corner of Central and Chevy Chase, located at 1000 South Central Avenue. This is a 2.3 acre park, 2.3 acre site with a building about 0.83 acres. This area is in South Glendale. We think it'll be very suitable for a park facility. Let it be active recreation, passive recreation, an area where people can, residents can go out and recreate. It'll add an additional 2.39 acres to our inventory, as well as green space in South Glendale. During the 2015 Parks Need Assessment, this area was considered a very high need, basically a park poor area, where it provided 0.7 acres per 1,000 residents in South Glendale. At the close of escrow, staff will basically issue an RFP to hire a consultant to work on marketing, community meetings, for designing and bring conceptual plans, a number of conceptual plans to City Council. Our hope is within the next 9 to 12 months, a year from now, we'll bring a number of conceptual plans to Council. Of course, with community input, we hope to have a number of community meetings, outreach meetings, surveys for the residents to pick their newest park. With that being said, staff is requesting authorization to execute a purchase and sale agreement to purchase the property located at 1000 South Central Avenue for the amount of $24 million. We will be using around $20.3 million in DIF funds, $2 million in general fund that was allocated as part of Measure S about 4 or 5 years ago, and Measure A, our LA County Measure A funds in the amount of $2.3 million. We were awarded that grant actually on Friday, late Friday afternoon, when we had applied. With that being said, I do thank Council, Mr. Mayor and Council with their continued support on expanding park and open space in South Glendale. Special thanks to city staff from Community Development, Mr. Mark Berry, as well as City Attorney and Chief Assistant City Attorney and the City Manager's Office in moving this project forward, or this purchase forward.
Thank you. We do have a speaker. Let's hear from the speaker first.
We have one speaker, Beth Brooks. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, I know this is exciting as far as the park is concerned. It's just surreal to come to a meeting to hear about the homeless who have increased in Glendale, especially the over 55 community who are sleeping in parks, to spend $24 million, actually more like 25 because there are broker's fees and closing costs, for a park, just for the property. And then, of course, there'll be the consultants who you have to pay millions of dollars to design the park. Then there will be the money that you have to spend to create the park, because I think this is horrible. I really do. I really feel it's like going to a funeral and then holding a birthday party and saying we should all be really happy, because that homeless presentation was like a funeral. It was horrible. So I know you're going to do this. I don't see how you can be happy about this because they need a park. Okay, yes, they need a park, I understand, but at this point in time, especially with the way the budget is, I think you should hold off on this. I know you're not going to, but it's very hard for me to be excited to hear about people sleeping in parks, and you're going to build another park to help people basically have some more people sleep there, because there are so many homeless people in the city who aren't being helped, and because we don't have services, or our rents are too high. So I just find it surreal. It's surreal to hear about a new park at the same meeting as I'm hearing about the homeless who are sleeping in parks. It's just crazy to me. It's shameful, because it's not just the 24 million. It's all the money that's going to be poured into this park. That really shouldn't be poured into this park at this particular time. I'll be honest with you. I don't think that's what Glendale needs. I think they need to help people to be housed, because just the number of people who we saw who are homeless didn't calculate all the people who are almost homeless. As she said, the couch surfers, the people, Mr. Brotman facing eviction, those people need help. You don't really need a park, I'll be honest. You could buy it, but you don't need a park. Hold on to it and don't put any more money into it for a while, but just, you really don't need a park.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any other speakers in line.
We don't.
If there's any questions, comments, motion. Mr. Garpetian, then Mr. Brown.
Questions?
Well, I'm looking at this resolution of appropriations. Item number 2, there's a transfer of $4.7 million from Wilson Middle School multi-purpose field project and $3.3 million from Cerritos. These were the projects that were approved in the past that basically was joint projects with Glendale Unified School District to redo their schoolyards, turn it into parks. It never happened. I'm glad that we're using those funds that has been sitting there for a long time for this project, but I want to make sure that we will have a soccer field there. It's a must, basically, to have a field that those funds were allocated for into our new park, basically. So that's one thing. I know that it's a long ways from building the park and completing it, but I think we need to look into it for sure to have a multi-purpose field, not only a soccer field. With that, that's all I have.
Mr. Brotman?
Yeah, I was going to, well, I mean, congratulations, and thanks everybody who worked on this. We've wanted to buy property in South Glendale for a park for many, many, many years. Long before my time, we've been talking about it, because it is severely park poor in our lowest income area. And this site is about as good a site as we could have found. So I think we're all pretty excited about this. Now, as you said, it's going to take a while to develop this, and it's going to take a lot of money to develop it, and it's money we don't have right now. I mean, we'll be, I'm sure, looking for grants and all the rest of it, talking to our congressperson and everyone else. But in the meantime, I guess I'm wondering, is there any way, well, I have two questions. One is, in the meantime, is there any way that we can monetize the site? Is there anybody that would potentially be a tenant, or is the time frame just too short for that? That's one question. The other question is about housing. The way we're financing this, or the way we're paying for this, does that preclude us from doing maybe something joint with, a housing project, affordable housing project? I think we talked about that at one time as maybe an idea that it could be a combined project, but I want to know if that's something that we are able to do, given that we're using the DIF funds and other things.
I believe, great question. I believe since we're using DIF funds and Measure A, Prop A funds, we won't be able to have housing on site unless we use housing funds and repay DIF, I believe. But as part of the grant application with LA County Measure A, this facility has to be a park. It has to be a recreational, open space recreational area.
In its entirety. You can't have part of it be it, and some of the other funding that we've used
the entire park, the 2.39 acre park, the 2.93 acre site needs to be a park if we use Measure A dollars. And if we decide to keep the facility, the building, it has to be a community center.
Right. And in the interim, what are we going to do? Are we going to keep the building? And is there any way we can monetize that?
I believe we have received one request, or the broker has received one request when the broker was at ICSC to have a temporary store for, I believe, a 6-month period.
6-month period. Oh.
Or 3 to
Councilmember
6 month
Brotman,
period.
this report, as you know, is for the
Yeah,
right sale and purchase agreement. But at this stage, I think it's a little premature to be able to give you responses in a concrete way as to what can be done on that property, as well as the interim use. But we'll look into all the possible scenarios and keep you apprised.
Okay.
Okay, is there anyone else? Councilmember Assatree.
I'm looking forward to the little happy dance, Mr. Bolanikian. And I share it with you because I know this is something that you've wanted and worked on for our community for a very long time. I could say that I think even just dating back to 1999, I think every election cycle, I've heard council candidates talk about getting green space and additional park space for South Glendale as one of their priorities, and I'm thrilled that we were able to get here. I think one of the conversations that I'm looking for us to have on this is, I understand that we're paying $50,000, or there is a lease for roughly around $50,000 for the Vertigo Job Center right now. And I believe you said state is covering about 40% of that, if I'm not mistaken. But if there is opportunities for us to utilize that building in order to not only cut down costs over there, but then, technically have it be, if the state continues to operate its development center from there, then it's actually a moneymaker for us and for our city.
We will look into that.
Thank you, and thank you to the CDD staff and the city attorney's office and everybody involved.
Thank you. Yeah, CDD staff as well as park staff, they worked on a number of renderings that we showed to you during a closed session, and thanks to park staff. I do want to add, this is the first major purchase that we've done in the last 25 years for park property, so kudos to council and city staff. We're very excited.
So in the staff report, it mentioned that the acquisition of the property would make it third or fourth largest park in South Glendale?
Yes.
Which are the top three so far, area-wise?
Pacific Park,
Okay.
Maple Park, and Palmer Park.
Pacific Park, Maple Park.
And Palmer Park, those are the largest parks in South Glendale.
Okay. I'm surprised Palmer Park would be larger, but I guess that
It's
includes...
similar size.
Yes, similar in size, but the way it's situated certainly wouldn't be... This would, I think, be
larger.
more centrally all located. The layout of that has a community garden, which I'm assuming you're including in that.
Yes.
Maple Park has tennis courts, which are only usable at most per tennis court 4 people at a time for the amount of area. And Pacific Edison Park, a lot of it is paved over for basketball courts and splash areas, and we reinstalled the Glendale's Aquatic Center. Okay, so I mean, if it was a green space, it would be the largest one south of the freeway.
Yes.
Except for Fremont, which we're hoping will open up soon. I technically consider that South Glendale or South Glendale adjacent. All right, thank you. I know that the sticker price of the property is high for those who are concerned about where the city is spending their money, and I don't want to single out the only speaker who came and spoke on this from the public, although I appreciate you being at least conscientious enough to attend our meetings. If nothing else, you are at least consistent in your message, although I don't necessarily agree with it, because I think that you are failing to understand that we have many responsibilities and we can hold 2 things at once by trying to establish a park in one of the most population-dense parts of the city to provide a recreational outlet for families, for children, for many of the folks who have to travel further than some other parts of the city for them to have a park. That is not a bad thing, and it doesn't mean that we're not trying to also help those individuals, as we had previously discussed, who find themselves in circumstances without a home. So for that reason, I think that's important for us to look for ways to expand park space, especially when the clamor from Sacramento, as we heard before, is build more, don't put any parking in, keep adding housing. Well, those people are going to need some place to go to for a respite. And I apologize if that doesn't agree with what your views are as to what the council is doing. But as someone who grew up in an apartment in South Glendale, I know the value of parks for families and for children especially. And so for that reason, I will support this.
Very good. We have two resolutions at 3A and 3B.
I'm happy to move them.
Before you, and the council, before you move on to the adoption of the resolutions, the first resolution, that is for the approval of the purchase and sale agreement. There's a minor amendment there. In the staff report, it makes references to the CEQA exemptions. So the recommendation is to add a paragraph 4 under your at the bottom of the resolution, that the acquisition is exempt from CEQA per CEQA guidelines sections 15004, 15061, 15031, because it is for land acquisition only. That would be the recommended amendment to that resolution.
At 3A. So with that amendment,
I'll move the item.
Second.
roll call, please.
Council members Asadrian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Karpetian,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. That concludes our business. With no objection, the special meeting is adjourned. And that brings us to the regular meeting of the Glendale City Council for June 24th, 2025. May we have roll call?
Yes, council members Asadrian,
Here.
Brotman,
Here.
Karpetian,
Here.
Kasakian,
Here.
Mayor Najarian.
Great.
Here.
Before closed session.
Will you please read the closed session items?
Yes. Closed session item A, existing litigation, Topazikchian matter. B, existing litigation, Jafaza matter. C, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation. D, public employee appointment, Director of Finance. E, public employee appointment, General Manager, Glendale Water and Power. F, public employee appointment, Fire Chief. G, conference with labor negotiator, unrepresented employee position, City Manager.
Madam City Attorney, do you anticipate reporting out?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, yes, we do. We will be reporting out on items 1D, E, and F.
Thank you. We will recess to closed session.